Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Coming Home to Yourself podcast. I'm your host, Vanessa, and here we'll dive into everything healing, mindset, confidence, manifestation, and how to become your most empowered self, aka coming home to yourself. In today's episode, I want to bring you guys closer to your purpose, so aligning you with your core self and finding out what it actually is that you're here to do, regardless of what the people around you want you to do or even think of you. All right. And I recommend you stay until the very end because I've got a nice surprise for you as well. So let me start by saying I wasn't born into a family that cherishes personal or spiritual developmental work, right? So my life was not one of peace and alignment. That was until I surrendered to the path that brought me to my actual life purpose. So, from having to seriously regulate myself emotionally to suicidal thoughts to failure after failure and betrayal, I found myself having to start over time and time and time again. All I had left at some point was gratitude. Gratitude to be alive, right? And it was not until I surrendered to the universe, to God, to my soul, to spirit, whatever you want to call it, and followed my heart, did the inner work intentionally, that I became the person who I am today. So I'm not talking about, when I say surrender, I'm not talking about all of that love and light shit where I'm gonna leave it up to the universe. Oh, 444, that means manifestation, my abundance is coming true, blah, 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 blah. No, I actually surrendered. So I left it up to the universe. Simultaneously, though, I did my inner work. So I'm walking with purpose. I'm walking intentionally, though. I'm also not perfect, but again, I walk with purpose. So I know the things that I deserve are coming because I'm putting in the work, not because I simply deserve it. I do, but I do put in the work in order to align with it. So this is my contribution to the world, right? And I truly believe that if everyone on this planet were to walk in alignment with their purpose, that every problem of this world would be solved. Of course, makes sense, right? Suffering would be eliminated, humanity would be in harmony, hooray. However, I also believe that not every human is made to do so. So many remain unconscious for the sake of duality in this world. Remember, I said in my last episode, you cannot have only good and you cannot have only bad. You gotta have a balance, right? They gotta balance each other out. So, again, to keep up the balance. But for the ones that are meant for more, it is our soul's mission to rejoin us with this purpose that we have and which desires to be expressed, right? Not just for our own satisfaction, but for the good of humans overall, for our family right now, for our future family, for our friends, for our peers, for just everybody, right? Including ourselves. And simply by you listening to this podcast, simply by you seeking out some personal development work, simply by you wanting to know what healing is about, what I'm about, I know that you are one of the souls that seeks to awaken, right? If you haven't already. So, the first part of this episode is going to be about the energy that is within you, within all of us, right? So, the energy that is within you is also called the source. It's the consciousness, it's the part of the universe that is within you. It's basically God acting through you, right? Whatever you want to name it, universe, God, source, spirit, the divine, you have all of these words. To me, they all mean the same. It knows no limits. And each one of us, so everything in this world that holds energy, is a face of that divine, of that God, of that universe. Okay? Regardless of background, regardless of form, regardless of opinion or viewpoint, we are all the same. And every living thing, every single one of us, holds a piece of the Creator, or as I just said, God, and has been created to reflect the source. Okay, so to reflect the source within you. And each one of us is created to reflect source back to itself. So source is everything, basically, right? Because everything is energy. And therefore, it has no way to observe itself. And the only way that this is possible is to create the illusion of separation. Separation from source and separation from each other. In personal development, it is also what we call detachment. Okay? Detachment is a moment where we, so our human, remembers the truth. So we take a step back and realize that we are all one, right? Because again, as I said, everything and everyone is made of energy. So we all are one. Our purpose is to reunite fully with our source within, to reunite fully with life itself, to dissolve all blocks, all filters that stop us from feeling fully connected with the source and thus connected to our life force, right? In personal development, again, we would call it getting rid of our limiting beliefs and reprogramming our subconscious mind of our conditionings. We do this in order to reach the fullest expression of our purpose, and therefore we have to connect with the version of ourselves that has no limitations. The version of ourselves that is free from self-judgment, which only creates resistance to self-expression. To reach the fullest expression of our purpose, we have to reunite with our full authenticity. So if we know that God is limitless, we can understand that to live by your own limitlessness is to live in alignment with the Creator, with God. And here again, you can refer to any type of God, the universe, the spirit, etc. It doesn't matter. And even if you don't believe in God, at the end of the day, it still means that you believe in something, which is enough to believe in it. Now, what is limitlessness but complete and full expression of yourself, of your love, of your authenticity, of your ideas and your dreams, of your core self, right? Living in limitlessness is living life to the fullest, living a life of divinity. And therefore, connecting with what gives you life, what lights you up, invigorates you, and fills you with energy is how we reconnect to not just our purpose, but also with the divine, with life itself. So we fully connect to ourselves, and this is why I call it coming home to yourself. You find back to yourself. Connecting with your purpose and living a purpose-filled life begins with dissolving limitations, freeing yourself from mental blocks and constraints, and fully flowing in your authenticity. So rediscovering your truth and thus reawakening your true being. So just know that we were not created to be a pawn on the board of our society today, right? We were created to experience life itself, to be life itself, and to live in our fullest expression, thus following God to fully experience another aspect of itself. Again, if you do not believe in God, you can believe in the universe, you can believe in simply the Big Bang, whatever it is, some power above you, or simply in the power within you. It doesn't matter, it comes down to the same thing that you have to find back to yourself, okay? Now, there are 4 different levels of self that we have to understand, heal, and master in order to rejoin with our core. And understanding these layers of self help to cut through illusions, dissolve ideas of who we think we are, and realign us back to our true essence and purpose, so our soul's unique blueprint. In personal development terms, we rewire ourselves and our brain by freeing ourselves of any limiting beliefs, toxic patterns and behaviors, conditioned programming, unhealthy habits, to get back to our core selves, to come home to ourselves. And getting to know each part of yourself will allow you to piece together your blueprint, your human design, your plan, what you came here to do. The parts reveal to you exactly who you are, what fuels your light, and what you are meant to express. But most importantly, the layers of the self show you who you are not. They show you what you may have picked up along the way that has created the illusion of self that you have adopted as part of you, but were simply just projections and limiting beliefs that others have given you, right? That you took on and continued to project. Many of us are aligning our actions and our day-to-day lives with definitions of success that others have given to us. We have morphed our personalities and how we express ourselves to fit into the categories that others may deem as acceptable in society, right? To be the best member of society that you can be for them. But many times, this is not you. These are ideas that you have adopted as your identity along the way that need to be released in order for you to step into your own full authenticity and your true life's purpose. And understanding the self is essential in doing this work. Many say that the spiritual journey is becoming nothing and no one, and I disagree. We all came to this planet as these unique souls, right? And the spiritual journey means releasing everything that is filtering this light and that pulls you away from your true essence so that you may rejoin with the source that is within you, come back to your core self. In this process, you think you become no one because you shed all of the layers of these limitations and subconscious programming, but in reality, you become more yourself. So you shed the you as you know yourself to be, and you become the you who you have always been, right? And this is what others call unbecoming of everything you were. This is what I call coming home to yourself, coming back to your core self. So the healing work doesn't evolve you into a different person or into no person at all. It brings you back into your true nature that has always existed beneath all of the limitations, beneath all of the lies, all of the projections, all of the programming, all of the conditionings, all of the shit, basically, right? Who you truly are has always been underneath. So you're just finding back to yourself. Okay, let's dissect the different layers of the self next. So the first layer is what we call the soul. This is your authentic nature. This is your core self. This is the first primal version of you that isn't tainted by all of those limits of self-judgment, attachment, or even duality, right? The soul holds your blueprint to your I am. It is your truth. The soul has complete neutrality to your journey, and it is completely focused on your life path. The soul has no desire for comfort, only expression and expansion. Your soul is directly connected with your higher self, which exists in the ether where the blueprints for your life experiences also lie. Your soul has a desire to contribute to collective ascension. It is you at your most raw, authentic soul essence. Your soul is not tainted with limitations or beliefs, which you have learned through the three other outer layers of the self, right? It is completely pure, actually. It is your, let's call it your home frequency. And there is no sense of duality, there is no sense of good or bad, no sense of desirable or undesirable, acceptable or unacceptable. There is simply you. And this layer of the self holds the first key of who you actually are and the version of you who must step forward in order for you to walk fully in your purpose. The next layer of the self is the inner child. And you may notice how this layer of the self is the closest to the soul. And this is because the inner child is the version of you that is the most connected with your soul. And it just begins to form an ego or a sense of identity, right? The inner child holds the key to how we express our purpose. And the soul holds the key to what our purpose actually is. And before you were taught who to be, you just simply were. Before you had an idea of what was unacceptable, what was cool, or who other people wanted you to be, you simply expressed yourself in a way that felt most natural to you. Plain and simple, right? And this is the version of you that existed before the limitations of life or society that were placed on you. Your inner child holds your sense of I express. So again, your soul, I am, your inner child, I express. And as we come into this level of the self, we begin to have these distortions in how we perceive ourselves and ourselves in the world due to these outside influences. The level of the inner child is the first level of being, which begins to be influenced by the things in the world that bring you out of alignment with your truth. For example, competition and comparison, distractions, ancestral or generational trauma, or even survival mode, aka physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual well-being. These different factors are what we first experienced that then began to distort how we express ourselves in the world, right? So our lack of expression is typically due to a lack of safety, fear, or self-criticism, which we adopt from the aspects above. And without clear and free-flowing self-expression, we cannot live in our purpose, since our purpose is the purest form of the expression of self. So through the lens of the inner child, we can begin to see what started pulling us away from ourselves and our true being. What beliefs were placed on us that began to create our confinements and these limitations that have influenced how we move through this world and how we express ourselves. From your childhood experiences, through the limitations, through the positive and the negative belief systems you adopt, you now develop your ego, which is the next layer of the self. Your ego is your sense of identity, your sense of self that is influenced by your experiences and your perceptions of your experiences, right? It is created from the realm of duality. So here, duality starts existing. The good or bad, the desirable or undesirable, the acceptable or unacceptable. And this is where our shadows come in. So the ego knows itself by knowing what it is not. The ego is created from comparison, which is rooted in perception and therefore rooted in illusion rather than truth. Truth cannot be changed, but perception can. And anything that can be changed is therefore not a consistent truth. So the ego is not inherently a bad thing, as many people think, right? On one side, it is here to protect us, right? To shield us from any outside threat or danger. It is the part that tells us to keep away from the border of a cliff, that tells us to push the brake when the traffic light hits red, or that tells us to run away when there's a threat incoming, right? On the other side, it is a set of ideas of who you think you are based on your experiences, and it leads you to all the different things like self-sabotage, comparison, and so on that I've mentioned before already. So the ego is an important aspect of the human experience. It is our own perception of ourselves. The ego holds the first interpretation of I can or I cannot be. And that is gathered from the information we have collected from the world around us ever since the first moment of self-actualization. Finally, we have arrived at the last layer of the self, which is the shield. And the shield is the set of beliefs projected out from your aura that either invite in or dispel energy from our life experiences. It is how we interpret ourselves in the world and how we think the world responds to us. Okay, so this creates the realm of possibility. It brings in or pushes away love, peace, abundance, all of those things. And this is because our beliefs influence our thoughts, which gives away to the feelings we experience and influence our actions. And the feelings we hold consistently within, those that run constantly in our subconscious as a background program, they dictate our life experience. And this is because they are the base of how we are perceiving the world. And this perception either limits or inspires the actions that we take towards our dreams. It narrows or widens our scope of vision and achievability, plain and simple. It either limits us or it expands us. Similarly to what we've discussed before, perception, because it is moldable, is a false illusion that can work in your favor or it can work against you. And by identifying and releasing aspects of the shield that we no longer wish to resonate with, we expand our life experience through cleansing our aura field and opening our energy to receive. So we shed all of those limiting beliefs again, all of those programs, all of those conditionings, all of those bad behaviors, toxic habits, and so on. Now, the shield is the blueprint in which we experience ourselves and how the universe experiences us. So, reflecting on your own role in this will help you tap into what beliefs you project onto the outside world that have created your cage, otherwise also known your comfort zone that you always like to stay in, that you have around you. And I like to see it as a prison cell that you have around you, that was created by the walls that you have built around yourself over the years because you thought you would keep yourself safe. Now, how do we begin to release these limiting beliefs and kind of tear down these walls? That is through allowing the present moment to initiate us into deeper levels of ourselves. So now that we've broken down the aspects of self, can we see what is true and what is not? We can see what is under the category of illusions and what is under the category of true soul essence, right? So your next question might be, now that I have identified these things, how do I release the illusions? And the fact of the matter is that 90% of the work is identifying the pattern. And after you discover the pattern, it then becomes a choice. And that is where a lot of people fail, because they think after being a little more self-aware and finally having identified that pattern and just recognizing the actions, the work would be done. Like, no, it's not enough that you recognize that you've been a bitch to me. The point is that you need to change and be better from now on. Or it doesn't matter whether you recognize how wrong it was to cheat on me, or that it was a mistake, or that I didn't deserve it. I already know all of those things. What matters is that, first off, what is it within you that makes you display those self-sabotaging behaviors? And secondly, what are you going to change and do better moving forward? Or, oh, you realize that you have this complete lazy pattern and you skip any important task at your first opportunity. Cool. But are you going to continue doing this pattern and repeating this cycle? Or are you going to do something about it? Again, 90% of work is done and people think that's enough. And then they continue on repeating these cycles, repeating these toxic behaviors, going about their day, going and complain 24/7 again, going and gossip 24/7 again, going and talk shit 24/7 again. But that's not the point. The point is the missing 10%. The choice that you have to change something, the choice that you have to choose better for yourself, to do better for yourself. So moving forward, you have to allow the present to initiate you into the choices that you know will bring you more closely in alignment with your true being. This means that every time a belief comes up, you have to ask yourself, is this an illusion or is this my truth? And through completing this work, you can remember that limiting beliefs lie within the illusion, which are a projection of the ego. All right, so you know it's not your true self. You know it's the ego playing around again. And the limiting beliefs that we hold within all of these layers of the self, they have been anchored within our subconscious. And oftentimes, this either happened through traumatic experiences or simply tough situations that we've been in, right? Or simple conditionings that we've gone through. And in those moments in time, if it was a traumatic experience, for example, Our energy was pulled out of our body to protect ourselves from this blow of heaviness of emotions. And these experiences, they have not only left us ungrounded, but also have locked our state of being in the past. So we're living in the past. And this causes us to react to the present moment from a sense of past trauma or simple conditionings, right? We're triggered. We have these huge outbursts and reactions to simple things, even to things that are not that bad or dramatic. And this then splits our energy away again from our frame of sovereignty. So healing is the ability to pull all of your energy back into your body, regain your power in the present moment, and become whole again. Our limiting beliefs pull us away from the now moment. They lock us into the past, as I've said, and limit our true potential. So they keep us small, right? They keep us limited. Again, keep in mind that prison cell that you build around yourself. The same happens with toxic behaviors or unproductive habits or unhealthy patterns or literally any other forms of distractions and excuses of the ego. It is only when we pull our focus and our attention into the present moment that we can live from our clearest self-expression and thus express our true purpose. And you have to understand before we go further that there is no other moment than the present moment. We experience a series of present moments, and our perception of each moment is how we categorize it as past, present, and future. That being said, trauma or energy blocks are our minds reacting to present moment from emotions of the past, thus recreating the past over and over and over again. So you're basically replacing the present moment with the past, making the now non-existent in your life. You're constantly in a state of a past experience. You're not even here. Can you imagine? This is how we get stuck in repetitive cycles, through continuously repeating the past through limiting beliefs, which lead to limited emotions, thoughts, and actions, giving us the same result of the past over and over and over and over again. And as we learn time and time again, you cannot expect a different ending if you keep reading the same book. Or as Einstein said, insanity is expecting a different result by repeating the same pattern. You get out of these cycles through rewiring your mind, rewiring your thoughts, and changing your actions. And how do you do that? You do that through shadow work, you do that through meditations, self-reflections, practicing mindfulness and gratitude, journaling intentionally, not blindly or randomly, visualization practices, even professional therapy, anything but doing the inner work is necessary. It is part of it. You cannot do all of these things like meditating 5 minutes a day and then, as I said before, go on about your day, repeat the same toxic patterns, go talk shit 24/7 again, go complain again, go put yourself again in this state of the past. Of course, this shit doesn't work because you keep repeating the same behavior you portrayed before. You didn't change shit. This is why inner work is so important. This is why simply writing 3 things down that you're grateful for and then going on about your day and forgetting all about it doesn't do shit. This is why your 3 affirmations that you tell yourself in the mirror and then go out and do the complete opposite, embody the complete opposite, and behave the complete opposite. That's why this shit doesn't work. Because you're not aligning with it. This whole love and light crap pisses me off. Because people are promoting all of these great techniques and exercises and practices, which I'm all for, by the way, don't get me wrong, but they portray them and they sell them and they promote them in such a wrong way that is actually more destructive than just portraying toxic behaviors. Because now you're not only not self-aware, now you're spiritually bypassing. Now you're doing all of this shit, plus you're using a little more fancy words to excuse your behavior. Now, all of these practices that I just mentioned, they pull all of your energy and attention back to your body and to this present moment. That's why I'm all for this. But even after you do these practices, even after you do the inner work, even after you journal, whatever you're doing, even after you listen to this podcast, without integration and without embodiment, you don't know shit. You don't do shit. You are not shit. Now, I want you to place your hand over your heart. I want you to take a deep breath in, hold, feel your heartbeat, envision all of your energy returning back to your body, and release your breath. And release any tension that may have been living within you right now. And I want you to repeat this multiple times in a row, whenever you want. And while doing this, I want you to take a moment and describe what you are smelling, seeing, tasting, feeling, and thinking. And once you did that, you are now in the present moment. And the more present you are, the less attached you are to the past. The sooner you pull all of your energy into the present moment, rewire your negative thoughts, take aligned action, and choose consciously to move towards a purpose-filled life that you know you are destined for, the sooner you can live in complete and total alignment, without any limitations of the ego, the shield, or the negative belief systems within you. Your soul knows deep within that abundance, peace, joy, all of those things, quantum leaping, money, love, happiness, healing, forgiveness, letting go, all of those things, they are your birthright. Ease, expression, and divine alignment are your natural state that bring these things into your life experiences. But for that, you gotta embody them. So when we shift to aligning our lives with our purpose, all needs will be met in abundance. This is law. This is not something I invented. This is just how it is. But you gotta embody it. You gotta believe it. And in order to do that, you have to rewire yourself. Your purpose is your soul's calling to alignment and to your heart's desires. Okay? Living a life of purpose is a lot easier than you think. You just make it hard. And throughout this episode now, we have moved through all of the levels of the self. We have brought you back to your true nature, and we have consciously guided you back to the present moment. So through observing and healing the layers of the self, we can shift our self-image to one of power, to one of fulfilling our potential and walking in our purpose. So we are already at the end of our episode now. I hope you loved it as much as I did. I could talk about this for hours, but I'm gonna stop right here. Otherwise, it will be too long. Now, before you leave, I told you I would have a surprise for you, and I'm not about to disappoint you. In the link in my bio, either under the podcast here or on Instagram, you are going to find the Coming Home to Yourself journal, which is the purpose journal. It is free. And it contains everything we talked about in today's episode and more, okay? There's many additional questions in there to every specific layer of the self, as well as more in-depth explanations on how to find your purpose as well, all right? So don't miss out on that. It's perfect for you to get started with this inner work, okay? With finding out who you are, with seeing what is holding you back and where you are at. All right. And I know that some of you guys already downloaded it after I uploaded it, which is a big slay, by the way. But for my other girls, go and grab your free journal now. Okay? With that being said, I'm your host, Vanessa. Thank you so much for listening again, and I'll see you in the next episode of the Coming Home to Yourself podcast. Bye.